The cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession. Welcome to StarScope Report.
Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals.
From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame. And today's deep dive is honestly one of the most intense we've ever covered.
Oh, absolutely. It's heavy.
Yeah, so we're pulling back the curtain on a headline that has just completely redefined an American dynasty. The headline reads, Priscilla Presley finally admits Lisa Marie's death tore their family apart.
Right, but as we actually look at the source material, I mean, the official narrative we get on TV versus what is documented in these court filings, it's just two wildly different realities.
Completely different. We're looking at, a multi-million-dollar estate war, shocking accusations of elder abuse, and just the absolute collateral damage of profound grief.
It really is this devastating intersection of immense wealth and immense tragedy. And when you examine the timeline, the public shock really begins in January 2023.
Right.
Lisa Marie Presley passes away suddenly at age 54, and the official cause was a small bowel obstruction, which, just days before that, she was on camera at the Golden Globes with her mother, Priscilla.
Yeah, celebrating the Elvis biopic.
Exactly. They were smiling, the cameras were rolling, and then, just days later, she was just gone.
I think we really need to explain what a small bowel obstruction actually is, too, because it sounds like this sort of generic medical issue, but it is incredibly severe.
Oh, yeah.
Procedurally, it's essentially this physical blockage in the intestine, which is often a delayed complication from previous abdominal surgeries. And in Lisa Marie's case, it was from a bariatric surgery from years prior.
Wow.
Yeah, it basically cuts off the blood supply to the tissue. So it is a rapid, violent, and often fatal medical emergency if it's not caught immediately. So, this wasn't a slow decline at all.
No, it was just a sudden plunge into a nightmare. And that sudden plunge really brings us to the confession that kind of stopped Hollywood. Let's look at May 2026.
Oh.
So Priscilla is at the Westgate in Las Vegas doing this live on-stage conversation, and she finally just says the quiet part out loud to the audience. She admits through tears that Lisa Marie's passing, quote, separated us in a way.
Man, that's sad.
Yeah, she describes this very relatable kind of family drift. She mentions that Lisa's 18-year-old twins, Harper and Finley, are, busy with their own lives now. And she basically paints this picture of a family that lost its center of gravity and naturally floated apart.
But, and this is the crazy part, the narrative completely shatters right there on the stage.
On the stage.
Because Priscilla's own son, Navarone Garibaldi, actually interrupts her. Like right in front of a live audience, he contradicts his own mother's timeline.
Which is wild.
Wild. He tells the crowd that the real fracture didn't start with Lisa Marie's death in 2023. He says the family actually broke 3 years earlier, in 2020, following the suicide of Lisa Marie's 27-year-old son, Benjamin Keough.
Yeah, and Navarone explains that losing Benjamin just caused everyone to grieve in their own little silos. People started pointing fingers. Blame was just being thrown around everywhere.
Navarone's interjection is so crucial because it completely recontextualizes the whole Presley family dynamic.
It really does. And if we look at Lisa Marie's posthumous memoir, which was actually completed by her daughter, Riley Keough, we get this visceral understanding of how deep that 2020 fracture really went.
Right.
Riley reveals in the book that her mother kept Benjamin's body on dry ice in their home for 2 months.
Wait, 2 months? Just right there in the house?
Yeah, exactly, for 60 days.
Oh my gosh. I mean, imagine the psychological weight of that on a household.
Oh.
You are, living, eating, trying to function in a home where your son, your brother, is physically frozen in the next room.
Right, it's so hard to comprehend, honestly. But legally speaking, it's entirely allowed. In California, there is no statute dictating an immediate timeline for burial or cremation.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, and Riley explains in the text that Lisa Marie just needed that ample time to say goodbye to Benjamin. It mirrored exactly how she had processed the death of her father, Elvis, when she was a child.
That makes sense, in a tragic way.
But when you have a matriarch consumed by that specific, overwhelming manifestation of grief, the collateral effect is that other family members are inevitably pushed to the periphery. The family was essentially frozen in that trauma right alongside him.
It's like they were living in a house that just survived a massive earthquake when Benjamin died.
Mm-hmm.
Like the foundation was already cracked. The load-bearing walls were compromised.
So that's a great analogy.
Yeah. So when Lisa Marie passed in 2023, It wasn't just a shock. It was the aftershock that finally brought the whole compromise structure down, just
Right.
forcing them to figure out what could even be salvaged from the rubble, you know?
Exactly. And we see that structural collapse in Riley's own words. When she spoke to Vanity Fair about the aftermath of her mother's death, she didn't describe, like, a quiet period of mourning. She described absolute panic. Her exact phrase was that it felt like the carpet had been ripped out and the floor had melted from under us. Just every single person in that family was suddenly in free fall.
Although, to Navarone's point on that Vegas stage, he genuinely believes that the fallout from Lisa Marie's passing is now forcing them to confront those old feelings of blame, like it's finally bringing them closer.
Yeah, he does say that.
But Navarone's optimism is completely at odds with the legal warfare that was erupting behind the scenes. And that's not even the wildest part of this story.
I'm not even close.
If you're loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead.
So true. The external noise surrounding this family is just deafening, and the epicenter of that noise can be traced directly back to the hospital room where Lisa Marie passed away.
Yeah, if you read Priscilla's 2025 memoir, Softly, As I Leave You, she paints this terrifying picture of those final hours. Lisa Marie is on a ventilator. Priscilla notes that the doctors told her there was virtually zero brain activity.
The machines were basically doing all the work.
Exactly. And Riley wasn't even in the state. She was on a flight, desperately trying to get back, and later shared that she actually felt her mother's spirit pass while she was somewhere over the clouds.
Which is just heartbreaking. Priscilla describes stepping out of the room for just a moment, only to hear a code blue alarm echo through the hallway.
Oh, God.
And, a code blue indicates a patient is in cardiopulmonary arrest. They managed to restart Lisa Marie's heart, but the neurological damage was catastrophic.
Right.
The medical team basically informed Priscilla that her daughter would remain in a vegetative state with zero quality of life. And faced with that, Priscilla made the impossible decision to remove life support.
I can't even imagine.
She writes about the moment the nurse began unhooking the wires, noting she was sobbing so violently that she blacked out and physically collapsed into the arms of her cousin Ivy.
It is arguably the most sacred, agonizing moment a parent can endure, which honestly makes what happened next feel incredibly invasive.
Yeah, it really does.
Because in August and September of 2025, former business partners of Priscilla Presley and Kevin Keough filed a massive lawsuit. And the core of their accusation is that Priscilla pulled the plug on her own daughter, specifically to seize control of the Elvis empire.
The sheer aggression of that lawsuit from Keough and Keough is staggering. They allege that Priscilla willfully ignored a specific directive from Lisa Marie to, quote, prolong her life.
Which is such a massive accusation.
Huge. Their whole argument hinges on the idea that Priscilla needed Lisa Marie out of the picture to regain her footing as a trustee of the estate. They even go so far as to label Priscilla a calculated sociopath and a master of deception.
And they don't just keep it to 2023 either. They reach all the way back to 1977 to paint Priscilla as this historically destructive force. Like, they actually accuse her of pushing Elvis to his death.
Which is insane.
Right. They claim she placed a nearly $500,000 lien on Graceland just months before his fatal heart attack, and that this financial pressure was the catalyst for his demise.
We should probably clarify what that even means for people who don't know real estate law.
Yeah, a lien is essentially a legal hold placed on a property to secure a debt. So if someone puts a lien on your house, you can't sell it or refinance it without clearing that debt first. And Elvis was famously asset-rich, but incredibly cash-poor at the end of his life.
Exactly.
So hitting Graceland with a $500,000 lien would absolutely create massive financial panic.
Right, but legally speaking, dragging a 1977 property lien into a 2025 lawsuit about Lisa Marie's trust is a classic kitchen sink strategy. You just throw every possible inflammatory accusation onto the public record to force a settlement through sheer embarrassment.
Totally.
But the real damage from this lawsuit wasn't the historical allegations about Elvis. It was the leak of a highly sensitive private letter from Riley Keough to her grandmother.
Oh, this letter. I mean, imagine getting an email from an estate lawyer before you've even had a chance to pick out your mother's casket.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Riley was dealing with. The leaked letter reveals that less than 24 hours after Lisa Marie's heart stopped, Riley was already fielding legal threats regarding the will. In the letter, Riley writes, "It is really hurtful that after years of me trying to resolve your and my mother's broken relationship, you are taking me of all people to court.
That 24-hour timeline really illustrates the brutal mechanics of trust law. When you are dealing with an entity like the Promenade Trust, which oversees Graceland and a 15% stake in the massive Elvis Presley enterprises, the business does not mourn.
Right, doesn't stop.
No, and a 15% stake might sound small, but it represents the controlling veto power over the brand's soul. The moment a principal figure like Lisa Marie dies, the legal machinery automatically engages. Lawyers have fiduciary duties to secure assets immediately.
Which is so cold.
It is. For Riley, the grieving daughter, a day-one email from an attorney is a profound betrayal. But for the estate's legal apparatus, it's just the required operational protocol.
Yeah, but I look at Cruz and Fialco's motives here, and it's hard not to see sheer manipulation. Are these former business partners actually concerned about Lisa Marie's medical directives? Or are they weaponizing a mother's horrific hospital room decision to leverage their own financial standing?
It's a great question.
Because if Priscilla loses her power in the trust, their business deals with her regarding the Elvis brand are completely dead.
The public relations response from the Presley camp certainly viewed it as a shakedown. I mean, Riley and Priscilla actually united against this external threat. In September 2025, they released a joint statement calling the lawsuit deeply hurtful and insisted the family was standing together.
United and also highly dismissive, mostly thanks to Priscilla's lawyer, Martin Singer.
Oh, his response was legendary.
He didn't just issue a standard, "We deny these allegations," press release. He mocked them into the ground. He put out a statement saying Priscilla didn't cover up Area 51, she didn't fake the moon landing, and she isn't hiding Bigfoot in the woods.
So good.
He literally told the plaintiffs to take off the aluminum foil hat.
Singer's strategy there is so effective, though. You ridicule the opponent so thoroughly that the media treats the lawsuit as a complete joke. But the irony is, while Priscilla and Riley were publicly laughing off this external lawsuit together, they were still engaged in a very real, incredibly expensive legal war against each other behind closed doors over Graceland.
Yes. And later in this deep dive, we'll talk about the multi-million-dollar twist that finally ended that Graceland war. But wait till you hear who got left out of the victory lap.
To really understand the internal war between grandmother and granddaughter, we have to look at what they were actually fighting over. In January 2023, almost immediately after the funeral, Priscilla challenged a 2016 amendment to the Promenade Trust.
Right, this is where it gets messy.
Yeah, this amendment was explosive because it removed Priscilla and a former business manager as co-trustees and replaced them with Riley and her late brother Benjamin.
And Priscilla's entire argument rested on this technicality of trust law regarding delivery. She claimed this 2016 amendment was never formally delivered to her while Lisa Marie was alive. Because in trust administration, if you amend a document to oust a sitting trustee, there is generally a legal requirement to notify them. So because Priscilla claimed ignorance, it gave her the legal wedge she needed to freeze the entire estate and drag Riley to court. She even went so far as to question the authenticity of her own daughter's signature on the document.
And the threat of a public trial over the authenticity of Lisa Marie's signature would have been catastrophic for the Elvis brand. I mean, it relies entirely on nostalgia and family legacy to generate its $100 million in annual revenue.
Oh, a trial would have been a PR nightmare.
Exactly. So they settled. Judge Lynn Scaduto in Los Angeles approved a sweeping agreement that fundamentally restructured the family's power dynamics.
Let's break down the actual payout, too, because the mechanics of it are brilliant. Riley Keough pays to become the sole trustee of Graceland. And in exchange, Priscilla receives a $1 million lump sum. But that $1 million doesn't come out of the estate's operating budget.
No, it doesn't.
It comes directly from Lisa Marie's $25 million life insurance policy.
Which is such a highly strategic legal maneuver. Unlike a standard will, life insurance bypasses probate court entirely. It isn't subject to the same public scrutiny, debts, or immediate taxes.
Right.
So it provided Riley with this massive pool of immediate liquid cash to buy out her grandmother without having to liquidate any actual Graceland assets or drain the trust's holding accounts.
And alongside the $1 million, Priscilla secured $100,000 a year for 10 years under the title of Special Advisor to the Trust. Riley also absorbed up to $400,000 of Priscilla's legal fees.
Wow.
Yeah. And Priscilla ensured her ultimate legacy by securing the right to be buried in the meditation garden at Graceland, right near Elvis. Oh, and to tie up loose ends, Navarone was given a 1/9 subtrust.
Meaning a specific smaller slice of the estate's revenue is carved out and managed separately just for him. But when you lay out those terms, the lump sum, the 10-year advisory retainer, the legal fee coverage, Riley is essentially buying sole voting power. The $1 million isn't a familial gift. It's the steep price of a clean break and total control over the enterprise.
It's truly like a corporate severance package. Riley buys out the hostile board members so the company can function. They papered it over as a family reconciliation. But the reality is Riley paid millions just to ensure Priscilla had zero legal authority over Graceland ever again.
And once the paperwork was signed, the PR campaign kicked off immediately. In September 2025, Priscilla appeared on the Today Show, smiling, telling the host that she and Riley are very, very close and that the media completely overblown their legal dispute.
She said she loves Riley to death.
Right.
But PR spin has a shelf life.
Hey.
Because just 1 month later, in October 2025, Priscilla released her memoir, Softly, As I Leave You. And the dedication page of that book spoke louder than any television interview.
It really did. The dedication page is traditionally where an author cements their loyalties. Priscilla dedicates the memoir to the deceased, Lisa Marie, Benjamin, her own mother, and Elvis. She adds a very specific tribute to her living son, Navarone, thanking him for his constant comfort. But she entirely omits Riley.
And the omission extends beyond Riley. She also left out Lisa Marie's 18-year-old twins, Harper and Finley.
Yeah.
I mean, you sit down to write a memoir about your grief, about the legacy of your family, and you purposefully exclude the 3 living daughters of the child you are mourning.
That omission is incredibly revealing. A television soundbite is fleeting, but a book dedication is permanent. It suggests that while the estate lawyers found a financial compromise, the emotional toll of a grandmother challenging her granddaughter's inheritance and questioning her dead mother's signature created a wound that $1 million payout simply couldn't heal.
Definitely.
The legal resolution did not bring about emotional resolution.
No, it didn't. You can divide the assets, you can restructure the trust, but you cannot mandate a relationship. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because in Hollywood, the paper trail always outlasts the PR.
Absolutely. We've traced an incredible tragic arc today. A horrific medical emergency forced a mother to make an agonizing choice. That loss didn't unite the family. It broke open a foundation that had already been fractured by a suicide 3 years earlier.
Yeah.
And all of that raw, unprocessed grief was immediately shoved into the meat grinder of a multi-million-dollar legal apparatus. They managed to save the business of Graceland through a strategic financial buyout. But the silence on that memoir dedication page suggests the cost was the family itself.
It leaves you with a lingering, almost philosophical question to chew on. When a family legacy is tied to a $100 million empire, does the wealth exist to serve the family, or does the family eventually to become employees of the wealth? Can you ever truly separate the business of being a Presley from the business of grieving one? You've been listening to StarScope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.